Welcome to another episode of the Daring to Transcend podcast. Today we are traveling virtually all the way to Sweden for a conversation with Carolina Klint of Marsh McLellan. So please stay tuned and join us for sure to be a fascinating conversation. So today, please welcome Carolina Klint, who is a global insurance leader with over 25 years experience leading high-capacity teams to solve some of the world's greatest challenges and crises. The course of her career has brought her from Stockholm to Atlanta and everywhere in between. She has worked with clients and partners to develop strategic solutions that support and enable them to manage global risk landscape. Currently, she leads a team of colleagues at Marsh McLellan to deliver world-class services and innovative solutions, and is an active supporter of many nonprofits, education foundations, and industry groups that aim to better our world and enhance opportunity for the next generation. When away from the office, Carolina enjoys spending time with her family, cooking and eating, love the eating part, good food, skiing, and golfing. So welcome, Carolina. I'm so happy that you joined us today.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be with you.
Yeah, so you obviously have had a world traveling career to some degree. And we were talking a minute ago about Atlanta. So just tell me a little bit about your journey and how you got from where you started to where you are now.
Sure. So I actually went to law school and I had this vision of becoming a fierce litigator, which never materialized. So instead I slipped and fell into the insurance industry, but I've never looked back. It was been fantastic. And I'm really, really pleased. So I started at Zurich Insurance, which is a Swiss insurance company. I worked for a couple of years and specialized in professional indemnity for lawyers and accountants. Then joined AIG, large global insurance giant, where I had the opportunity to try a lot of different roles. And I really had a chance to flex different leadership muscles, develop different perspectives. So interesting. So from claims, I went into distribution, to marketing, to underwriting, and then took over as the country CEO. After 11 years at AIG in Sweden, I then raised my hand for an international opportunity, and I ended up in Atlanta, Georgia. So a really interesting culture shift. Spent 4 years in Atlanta and had the privilege of leading the Southeast region and then later the South region, so 11 states, and a large group of colleagues. And then decided to come back to Europe and took a job with Marsh as the CEO for the Northwest sub-region of Europe, and then later became the risk management leader for Europe, leading that segment across 35 countries. So a lot of diversity, a daily battle to herd the cats, but also super rewarding. And then in May of last year, I was appointed Chief Commercial Officer for Marsh McLennan over that same geography, 35 countries. So I have really had the great privilege of working across different cultures, in different countries, in different functions, in different areas of the business. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow, that's really exciting and kind of unusual that you've been able to transition into different parts of the companies. I mean, I was so fortunate in my career, I got to do that a lot at AM Best too, go into different roles in different departments from IT to, marketing and sales, but that doesn't always happen. How did you manage to follow the threads to be able to bounce around like that?
I think a career is really it's not like a linear curve. It's not a linear thing at all. To me, my career has been like a jungle gym. It's been all over the place. But I think that has also been the beauty, because every single role that I've been in has exposed me to different experiences, different people, and it's just equipped me and really just pegged me for the next role in my career. So it doesn't really matter. And I remember vividly when I was the CEO of the Northwest sub-region of Marsh, and I got the question if I could step down from that and instead take over the risk management segment for Marsh. And my initial reaction was that it's a trap. So for a woman to walk away from a CEO title And for a P&L responsibility, I was like, no. So I was like clinging on to the title and the P&L responsibility. And at the same time, that is not what matters, because every single role will give you a different opportunity to experience things, to learn things, to, again, flex different leadership muscle. So whether you have the opportunity to lead colleagues as direct reports, or if you then shift into a role where you have to lead a large group of colleagues indirectly that actually don't report to you, the beauty is that will really enhance your capabilities in terms of influencing, in terms of communications, in terms of creating a strong storyline and narrative. And then if you shift back to a CEO role or a C-suite role, then that will just benefit you so much, because you understand different perspectives and you have just flexed and trained different leadership muscle. So I think that is, to me, that has been the learning throughout my career. Like, don't hesitate, like, try it. It might bring you somewhere else.
Absolutely. And that was absolutely my philosophy when I was working in court. Well, it still is my philosophy. Just try something else, because sometimes things don't work out the way you want them to, or the way you expect them to. I think the way you expect them to is more important. But I love that you're so open to just trying something new. I want to go back to something you said in that statement that was really important, that you were clinging to that CEO title and that P&L responsibility. It's so often that we just grab onto things in life and think, okay, I've got this, I've got to hold on to it right now. And it's so hard to let go. What actually got you to the point of letting go?
Well, actually, my boss at the time, he called me and offered me this opportunity to take the regional role. And I said, well, I'm not sure. I need to think about it. And then he said, okay, you think about it. I'll call you back. And then 6 weeks later, he called me again and he said, so tell me, what are your reflections? And I really think this would be a good job for you. And I was like, no, I'm not really sure. I don't know. Then 2 more weeks passed and he called me and he said, Carolina, it's not a question anymore. And I said, yes, sir. If you put it that way, of course, I will transition into this regional role. So he actually really pushed me. And the funny thing is that really that job was one of the best jobs that I've had throughout my career. I mean, he saw it. I didn't see it, but he saw it. And we had that conversation, a year after, 2 years after, and I told him, I don't know how you saw it, but I did not see it, but I want to thank you. And he was just like, yeah, I knew that it would be perfect for you.
So, yeah, got a little bit of the I told you so in there, right?
Oh, for sure. So, but the thing is that sometimes you need to trust others in their view of you. So in this instance, I really got a kick in the behind, right, to make that jump. But I've had other really pivotal points in my career. So for example, the first leadership job that I took, when I really looked at myself as a specialist and I had no interest in the leadership track at all, but I was offered an opportunity to take over a claims manager job for AIG in Sweden. And I was totally shocked that I would receive this question. I was really like, well, are you asking me? But I was 26 years old. I had no leadership experience, and I really could not believe that they asked me. But at the same time, at that point, I felt some confidence in the fact that they clearly saw some leadership skills in me. So if they think that I can do it, then maybe I can. Maybe it's worth trying at least. So it's interesting that sometimes you have to trust others if you can't see it in yourself.
Yeah, it's so often we don't see it on ourselves, right? We get this view of what we can do, what we can't do, and we put ourselves in boxes as much as other people do. And sometimes, you obviously were lucky. I was lucky to have a boss that saw something and pushed me and encouraged me to take things. And you've obviously had that too. But if we don't have someone that's pushing us like that or seeing those things to draw us out, how do you encourage people to find that in themselves?
Yeah. It's such a great question. And one thing that I'm very mindful of is nudging younger talents, and especially women, because women need a little bit more nudging, to be honest. And maybe a little bit more reinforcement, a little bit more like, you can do this, it's okay. So I'm very mindful of that. And also the other thing, when I speak to younger talents and aspiring young leaders, it's easier said than done. But the thing is, you have to be your own best friend, and you have to be your own best supporter, because there are enough people out there that are going to try and make it difficult for you. So if you don't have the ability to pep talk yourself, like you have to train, that is a muscle that you have to train for yourself, like to give yourself a good pep talk. And if you feel that is difficult, then find someone else to go and give a pep talk, because then you're going to actually lift your own spirits just by, encouraging someone else. But I think just finding that strength and being grounded enough to believe in, your ability to stay at it, even when it gets difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you talk about women needing more nudges, because I had a conversation a few weeks ago with Ola Snow, who is the Chief Human Resource Officer at Cardinal Health. And she talked about how she still sees in her organization how women just do not still raise their hands for the promotions, for, to get ahead. And, as a leader in a larger organization, it's so important for you and, people like Ola to develop women so that we have more seats at the table. What do you do in particular to help encourage the women in your organization?
No, I'm very, very mindful. So when I recruit, for example, I want a diverse slate, and I will hunt down women that may not look at themselves thinking that they are ready, but where they're clearly ready. And then they just need to be told that you're ready. I mean, really, you're ready. So that has been one way of really supporting that, building a better self-image for some of the women in the organization. And then I think, you reach a point in your career. To me, it was quite clear in the beginning of my career, it was a lot more, competitive. So it was only difficult amongst women to be really, really helpful, friendly, supportive. And that was just draining. It's so sad. And I'm so happy because something suddenly happened. And all of a sudden, there's only generosity, and there's only, the willingness to open up networks, help connect dots, to open a door, to give each other opportunities. And when that happens, it is amazing, because karma is a powerful thing. What you put into the world, you will get back. And it's just like a self-feeding, beautiful thing. If you start acting more with that generous thought in mind, it will really serve you so well.
No, absolutely. And I totally saw that in my career too. The competitiveness, well, okay, I'm happy for you, but, maybe I should have gotten that position, or whether there was a lot of competition. And it is so gratifying to see that breaking down and, women really opening up to say, hey, we're all in this together. And when one of us succeeds, we all succeed. Great. And that's such a hard thing sometimes for us to get our heads around, because it's kind of the opposite of the competition of the men's world, right? And I know insurance, you succeeded well, and there are other women succeeding in insurance, but it's still a pretty male-dominated environment.
Oh, yes. It is. But, I think it's important to remember that we are all in some way victims to a social construct. So sometimes the difficulties that we face, it's not because someone is trying to be mean. It's just that is the way we're programmed. We have been taught that this is the way things are. And I think for women, maybe then the conclusion is that, okay, so if there's only one seat, like one woman can have a seat at the table, then of course I want that woman to be me, which is it's crazy, right? So, and at the same time, the men that work around you, they have a certain view on how things are supposed to be and and again, it's not because they're mean, it's just because that is the way things have been structured, and that's the way we have lived for decades. So
centuries.
And I think it's so important to remember this is not personal. It is not personal. So sometimes you come across a situation that is absolutely absurd, but then you just have to take a step back and think, okay, you know what? It's not about me. It is not because someone's trying to be mean to me. It's not personal. It is because of this. And that is, and it's so much easier then to find the energy to, like, again, stay at it.
Absolutely. And, that reminds me of, one of my favorite books, The Four Agreements, which is don't take it, one of the four agreements is don't take anything personally. And that is so hard because we tend to do that. We tend to make it all about us when, to your point, 99% of the time, it has nothing to do with us and everything to do with the cultural constructs, that person's background or history, what they've been taught, all of those things play into our decisions and how we show up in the world. So I guess that's another question I have for you as a woman who's been successful in Europe in a male-dominated industry, in a lot of different ways. How has that shaped your identity as a woman, as a leader, as a human being?
So for me, I think the beauty really lies in being exposed to different cultures and different dimensions of diversity, because I have seen firsthand how it can really bring such richness and how it can turn teams into total superpower teams when you have that ability to harness the strength of diverse perspectives. And it's not about just being diverse, but it's also about being inclusive. So making sure that you really pull out all of that beautiful diversity out of the teams. So, and I think for me, inclusive leaders don't really listen to answer, they listen to understand. So making sure that you poke and you trigger and you nudge so that everyone feels comfortable contributing, because the output is going to be so much better. And I think that is the main thing that I really, really value, having had the opportunity to work across so many different cultures.
I love that, because we don't often listen to understand. A lot of times we listen to respond, to say, okay, I'm going to listen to what she's saying so that I can inject my point of view here. And listening to understand is such an incredible talent and skill. It's a skill. It can be learned. Some people have it innately, but it's absolutely a skill that can be learned. Yeah. And I love that, because you're right. Listening to understand is the only way to draw out the best in people and to allow people to contribute at their fullest level. So I absolutely applaud you and agree with you for that. So in making an impact within Marsh or within, a larger organization, what do you want your legacy to be there?
Oh, wow. What do I want my legacy to be? I want to install a sense of purpose and contribution to the world, because in so many ways what we do has actually increased in value over the past number of years. And the reason for that is that the world is increasingly complex. It is a volatile, difficult business environment to navigate. And I really want to make sure that that my colleagues understand how much of that sort of expertise, the knowledge, the value that we can bring to the world, and how that is so relevant right now, and how much they have to contribute. So I want to make sure that they have the confidence to really bring that out, and that they're not bashful, that they don't hold back. And then, of course, I want to make sure that the colleagues come to work every day and that they enjoy it, because we spend so much time at work. We spend so much time at work, and it is hard. And I think the whole discussion around work-life balance, I always said it's a hoax. Like, don't even talk to me about work-life balance. I have no idea. It's work in his life, and it's a beautiful mess, and we all try and navigate it, right?
Yes. Work-life integration, right? Integration, not balance.
No, even like the word balance, it's like it's provocative to me. I was like, it's like, well, what are you talking about? Balance? No. So, but with all that said, I think it is so important that you have an environment where your leaders will definitely challenge you, but that they also see you, that they support you, and that it is a friendly, fun environment, that you're happy to come to work in many ways. So that I hope I want that to be my legacy, that I had that impact on people, that I actually felt valued, and that they felt that they could contribute, and that they had a good time at work. But also that I'm super demanding, that I want to see the results. So it's not all fun.
Well, of course, because if you're not getting results, you are not going to be there to have fun too long, are you?
No, very important. So I want to add that as well.
Of course. And, I think that's one of the things that, corporations have, there's such a negative view of corporations in a lot of the world today, right? That, that they're the evil empire, so to speak. And, we lose sight of the fact that, corporations do need to make money. They do need to be profitable. They do need to be successful in order to provide jobs for people and to provide the services that we need, and, and all of those things. I love how you put the fun and the feeling heard first, but didn't forget the fact that you've got to get results and you've got to make profits. How do you, when you are presenting that to your teams and to other organizations, how do you represent a corporation in the world today?
So to me, it really starts about client centricity. So we talk a lot about client centricity because that is why we are here. If what we do is not perceived as relevant and value to our clients and our future clients, then there's no point. So, and it is hard sometimes because, and especially in a very large organization where you have large functions and you have, it's just, sometimes it becomes really complex. And then in that complexity, we forget that we're actually here to serve someone. We're here to serve a client, right? And of course, it is also, when you work for a listed company, you always have the shareholders to keep in mind as well. But at the same time, my view is that really, if we have the client in focus, if we deliver, then results will be good. Colleagues will thrive because it will really give them more opportunities to develop, to grow. We'll be able to invest more. We can invest in training, in digital capabilities, in more colleagues, and shareholders will be happy. So it's like, it's all connected, right? But I think for me, it really starts with client centricity. So that is like what I preach.
Yeah, well, it has to, because without clients, you can't do too much. So you talked a little bit about, and I think this goes back to your client centricity. I know you talk a lot about risk and how risky the world is today, and how insurance does play an important role of that, even though, many people outside of the insurance industry, think insurance is boring and all of those things.
Total conversation killer at cocktail parties, I can tell you.
Yes, I know. What's so funny is I'm actually, where I was when I was working in AM Best, which is an insurance rating agency. And my father was the medical director for a life insurance company. And my grandmother, my mother's mother, worked for a property casualty insurance agent, a local agent. So it's kind of like what I always said when I was working, I was like the third generation in the insurance industry, but all in completely different ways, which shows how, multifaceted the industry is. And there's lots of different roles, and it infiltrates our lives in ways that we don't really expect. So I love that you're focused on that. How do you tie, like, for your teams? Let's say you've got, your programmers in IT, for example, right, that are plugging away on writing, some internal code for some, delivery system, to be focused on that outside big picture, you're helping make the world a safer place, right? Really, because ultimately that's what insurance does.
Yes. And I think it's about creating clarity around the goals so that they really trickle down and you connect the dots between the big corporate, like the vision and the goals at that level, and then really take it all the way down to the daily tasks that an individual employee performs and contributes with. Because if you have that conversation, like how does this connect back all the way to where we're headed as a corporation, you create clarity. And I think it's one of those really important things. Keep it simple, make it clear, and focus on the possibilities.
Absolutely. I could not have said it better myself. I love that. So what are the possibilities for you personally, Carolina?
Oh, wow. Right now I'm just so laser focused on this new job that I've been in since May of last year. So it is so exciting to build something from scratch. I basically started with a blank sheet of paper. So I'm going through all of those, like, talk about change curve, right? It's like building it out, recruiting a team, going through all the different phases, creating a storyline to convince other colleagues to lean in and be part of this journey. So I'm really getting that opportunity to stress test, pressure test all of my leadership skills. So right now I am just super happy. I don't even know what's next for me. For me, it's like I just want to continue being challenged, continue being in a place where I feel that what I can contribute is being valued, and where I'm having a bit of fun.
I love that. If you're having fun, why not, right? Why not? There's something that you said about, starting with a blank slate, right? Which is really cool. How did you end up getting into this position of starting with a blank slate?
Because it was a completely new role. So we have 4 companies in the organization, and the idea was to really try and distill the value of the intersections. So then, as a result, a new role was put in place to try and really identify the cross sections and where we can bring better, like where are we stronger together? So my charge was really find an answer to the question, where are we stronger together? And that is incredible. I mean, it is huge, of course, because how on earth, where do you even begin? But at the same time, what a privilege to start digging down into this, to really try and find, the cross sections and how we can turn that into a value proposition that can really help our clients even better, help the world in a much more meaningful way. So that it's been an adventure, I have to say, and a really interesting journey that we're in the middle of.
That is so cool. I love that. Yeah. So what have you sacrificed personally along the way of your career?
Oh, wow. That's a big question. I don't know if I want to talk about sacrificing, but I mean, sometimes I think back. I have a 16-year-old son, and I have spent a lot of time traveling. Ever since he was young, I always worked a lot, and I traveled a lot. I spent days away. And of course, sometimes because all those days, they turn out to be your life, right? It's like, one day you wake up and it's like all those days, whoa, if that was my life, then here we are. And now it's like, he's ready to move out and he's not even that concerned about what I do anymore. So sometimes I wonder, but I have to say, I think it's more because I'm a little bit selfish, because he has actually turned into a fantastic young man that I'm incredibly proud of. And we have a very, very close relationship. So I can't really say that I sacrificed that much. And also because early on in my career, I had a conversation with a mentor who told me the one thing I will tell you is you do not bring the leftovers home. Whatever, like it doesn't matter how your day looked, before you open the door to your house, your apartment, it doesn't matter. You put on a smile, you shake off the day, and you are there for your family. You do not bring the leftovers home. And I think to me, that was really, really helpful in terms of mindset.
That's incredibly valuable, because how often do we do that? We take all the crap from the day and we bring it home and we dump it, on our families. we bring that home, and then therefore that really diminishes our ability to interact with them. So that is really beautiful advice. I've never heard that said before in exactly that way, but that is an incredibly powerful piece of advice.
I felt the same, and it really stuck with me. And it's not always easy, right? Sometimes you come home and you had a really difficult day or a difficult week, but on the other hand, I have to say I do have the support of my family as well, because it does happen still that I come home and I say, you know what, I'm done. I'm like, I've had enough. And they will both, my husband and son will look at me and they will go, you know what? No, because you would be a terrible wife and mother if you didn't have that job. So get back in the saddle again. Stay at it, because we don't want you at home. So, which is also, of course, it's a moment of, okay, self-awareness right there.
Well, obviously they can see, because I can see it through our conversation today, how energized you are and how passionate you are about your career. And, it's so funny because when I grew up, my mother was a stay-at-home mother and wife. And the expectation that I grew up with from my family from day one is like, in fact, I remember one of my high school friends just absolutely cringing. But, I was going to college in order to, have a backup, so that if something happened to my husband, I could take care of myself, right? But other than that, the expectation was that I was going to be a stay-at-home mother and wife. And, that worked for me until I was about 26 or 27. And then I'm in the workforce and I'm loving it and I'm stimulated by it. And I love the challenge and the energy and all of that. And I'm realizing the impact I could make, right? I think for me, that was one of the things. I'm realizing that I can make an impact in the organization, for our customers, all of that stuff. And that just invigorates you in ways that, I'm sorry, Sting, not that there's anything wrong with that. If that's what invigorates you, I'm 100% supportive of it. But we really need to know where we get our energy from.
Couldn't agree more. Completely agree. You just have to find your thing, right?
Right. And it's so beautiful that your husband and son recognize how much energy you get from your work and your ability to make an impact, and how supportive they are of you from that.
I could drive them nuts if I was that also. There you go.
I get that. We have to have boundaries in all of our relations.
There you go.
You have to have boundaries. So you, in your bio and in some of the things you've talked about work outside of your company that you do with nonprofits and educational foundations. So tell me a little bit about that and what you're doing there.
I think it's so important to give back, right? And I had the opportunity when we lived in Atlanta to get active in a couple of different organizations, which I so enjoyed. And I think it's a very much like, I don't know, I think that the way that works in the US, it's so beautiful. You have all these opportunities to get involved and to really contribute and give back. It is a little bit more difficult, I have to say, in Europe, because it is, again, 35 countries, 35 languages, 35, and it's not even consolidated. So then it's more on a country basis. But in the US, for example, I had a seat on the board of Junior Achievement of Georgia that really focuses in on giving financial literacy education to young individuals. And I found that super, super rewarding. And then also the Risk Management Association of the Georgia State University, which of course is a passion, bringing young talents into the industry, finding ways of attracting talent into the industry, because again, it is a well-kept secret. The insurance industry is like the most amazing place to have a career. I have to get that on record as well.
Of course. Hey, I was in the insurance industry, so I get it. It's much more interesting than people think it is.
Yes. No, but so that it gives so much back. And then I have been working with the Business Insurance Foundation, which is really a vehicle to support women in the insurance industry for the past, I don't even know, 12, 15 years maybe. So that has been also incredibly rewarding. And I have had the great pleasure of also developing an amazing network through these organizations, which is, again, what you put in the world, you will get back. It's karma, right?
Absolutely. I love that. So if you had to change one thing about your career, your life, whatever to date, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know that I would change anything. I have to be really, really honest. I don't, if I think about my career, even in the moments where I have had really bad bosses, what I've taken away from that looking back is that I have learned how to model the opposite. I know what it feels like when you have someone that doesn't see you, doesn't value you. And I think that is in itself actually valuable. You don't necessarily recognize it in the moment, but I think your career is like a long dwindling river, right? And my firm belief is that you can have it all. You just can't have it all at the same time. Sometimes you just have to be patient, and you have to, try a different way, and so through it all, even though there have been moments where I have really felt, ready to give up, or it's been super challenging, or I've been like really struggling, looking back, I don't know that I would change anything. I don't think so.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love the river analogy because it's so true. Our lives take ups and downs. We're sort of taught that everything is just a straight trajectory up, right? And that's how, you work for a public company. That's how the stockholders expect your performance to be. We often think, okay, we're going to get a job and we're going to move up the ladder, and there's a prescribed path up the ladder to get to where we want. There's no detours, there's no this, it's just this. And the most rich and beautiful experiences often are the ones that are completely off that trajectory, right? Whether they even go, to your point, you take a step back, take a step down, you take a step sideways, you go in a completely different direction for a while. And that just opens up so many new opportunities that you may not even have thought you would have. And I think your career obviously is a beautiful example of that. So I'm going to ask you one more question as we wrap this up. Of those detours that you took along the way, you said, you taking the risk management job was something that you tried to hold on to and not do. Was there any detour that you absolutely didn't want to take that turned out to be the most rewarding?
I mean, I think that is the example, actually, because I really, really hesitated. And I could only, doing that pros and cons list, it's like, nah, this is not going to be good for me. And it turned out to be such a fantastic stepping stone. It really exposed me to different areas of the business, to different colleagues that have been incredibly helpful, that I've learned so much from. And it has been an amazing, it was an amazing experience. So I think that is really the one that stands out to me in terms of big question mark turned out to be magical.
That's great. And I love the pros and cons list. I always talk to people when I talk about risk taking, because I do talk about risk taking a lot. I always tell you about people may always make two lists, the pros and the cons. But the list that we often forget to take is, what's the cost? What benefits are you losing? Like, what's the what if scenario piece of it? Right. Here's the pros and cons of taking it. But yeah, what are the cons, the pros and cons of not taking it, right? What are what's the cost of not taking that risk? And we often forget to put that into the equation because sometimes we can't see it. To your point, sometimes we can't see it. And I love that you had your boss and encourage you to do that. So thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. I love it. And I can't wait to see what does happen next with you, because it sounds like you are doing creating an amazing new role and you can end up taking Marsh to a whole different level in Europe, at least, and then maybe the world, right?
Who knows, aim for the stars. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. And Carolina, if people do want to get in touch with you or find out more about you, how would they do that?
I think I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. You'll find me there.
Absolutely, which is where I found you. I love that. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Carolina Bulluck, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want to learn more about my philosophy about leadership and women's leadership, including some of the stuff that we talked about with Carolina today, don't forget to check out my masterclass that's available for free on my website. Have a great day and join us next week for another episode of the Daring to Transcend podcast.